Because what is more innocent than bombing a police station?
Listen, we've all played Grand Theft Auto. That's instant stars.
Hey, we getting 5 stars in one go, baby. It's called efficiency.
Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 60. I'm your host, Ryan, here with your other host, Hedge.
60?
We did it.
God, we're old.
That's a lot of hours of episodes.
We talking to a microphone for a long fucking time.
I know. Where's that paycheck showing up? Anyways, housekeeping. You can listen to us everywhere, as usual. Visit us at podcastcore.com for all of our info. Then follow us on any platform you prefer. And then you can send an email to us if you need to reach us at podcastcore@gmail.com, spelled the same way. And then leave a like, follow, and a short review / comment on any of the platforms that you use. Helps us a lot. Helps us with discoverability, so we appreciate it. But the best way is to tell a friend to give in to the pyromania by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast.
Man, thanks for nothing. Now I have Def Leppard stuck in my head. Pyromania!
As we continue to listen, we're talking about this episode, Jinx and Ziggs Paint the Town. So this is a comic from, obviously, Riot, which gives us a brief adventure of the two crossing paths in an unexpected way. It's short, it's a comic. It's about 12 pages or a little more, give or take. And it's fun. It's kind of written almost like a old cartoon. If you think of the Acme gags that we would get from like Roadrunner and those kind of things, right?
Gotta get your little bubble in with the bang and pow.
Yeah.
Definitely old fashioned, but I for one definitely wanted to kind of highlight the story thanks to Arcane coming out, which at the point of recording pretty much right around the corner. But that's going to be coming out in November. What is it? November 3rd. So, or November 6th. November 6th.
They're going to put out the first 3 episodes all at once.
So it was definitely wanted to touch on this so that we get to see an adventure of Jinx's just going around the town of Piltover, where it's not necessarily your champion bio, not necessarily going to be what we see in Arcane, since Arcane looks like it's going to be set before the Jinx that we know and love. It becomes the Jinx we know and love. But who knows? Maybe we'll get to see some of these little things pop up in the show, or maybe we'll get to see little things that kind of bring us back to this comic or back to what we see in Piltover here. So it's gonna be fun to watch the show with this comic in mind.
Exactly. So let's get into it. Like I said, it's a comedic romp, very fun-loving, not too self-serious, but there are some themes here that do give us some insight into Jinx. So we start with Zygmunt and Heimerdinger.
Zygmunt!
At their tinker factory. They have this little tinker shop in Piltover, which is, what you would expect almost like a clock shop to be like. And they look different. You can tell it's them. We can tell it's them. But the customers can't. And that's the point. The clientele doesn't know that they are not human.
Yeah, so this is we've alluded to this before with our other episodes, like with Heimerdinger and with Fizz, where Yordles they're magical creatures. So Yordle Appearances, no one really knows what a Yordle actually looks like. We have the kind of idea of what Yordles look like, thanks to some of the characters like Teemo,
Mhm.
where it's like maybe that is their natural state, but Yordles are also fun-loving creatures, so they're constantly changing their appearances with the use of glamours. And this first page, we get to see, as far as the glamours, if you can look at Zygmunt with a straight face, then you just have no funny bone left. I don't know what happened to your sense of humor. I feel sorry for you.
Yeah, but we definitely get the odd couple pairing here, right? Of the quirky genius and then the fun-loving guy who just wants to blow stuff up.
Yeah,
And they're trying to just make a living, right?
basically like the borderline psychopath.
Borderline until he meets his match a little bit later. But at the beginning, they have like an interaction with one of the clients who's not pleased with the service because, you know, instead of using a pinch of pyro gel, he used the whole thing and things went boom. Instead of cleaning his chimney, he blew it up. That wasn't the plan.
Why didn't my chimney get cleaned with the thermite you sold me? Like,
exactly.
What? Of course it blew up. Like, it's a name like Pyrogel. What do you expect?
Exactly. So we get a little bit of fun conflict here between Heimer and Ziggs because Heimer's like, why are we doing this anyways? Why are we wearing this glamour? Why are we not being ourselves and, you know, having a good time? And Heimer's like, we're trying to blend in. You know that they're essentially racist against us. We have to do what we have to do. And he's like, I'm going to go for a walk. So he goes for a walk, puts back on his glamour.
And I will say that this is also interesting because this is an insight into Heimerdinger before he becomes like the renowned professor.
Yes.
Like he is just working in some shop, just trying to make a living. So the Heimerdinger we know from the bio is that he is a very well-respected member of Piltover, whereas right now he's just worried about getting lynched. So it's kind of a fun look into the past where with his bio, we don't get a lot of his past. So, yeah, I don't know as far as if this is going to be like canon or whatnot, but
yeah, that's a good point. And this also gives us a time frame for Jinx, right? Because that's the whole thing with Jinx is when did everything happen? Arcane's going to put a lot of spotlight on that, which is going to be great for the lore. We can't wait, and we'll have episodes, so keep an eye out for those. But it's going to give us some insight into what happened to get her to the point that we know Jinx, like how she was released, right?
Yeah, and when we get to the second page of this comic, the big spoiler here is that does not tell us of when she became the crazy, because she's already crazy in this comic.
Yes, and the big giveaway is, so Ziggs goes for a walk. He has his glamour on at this point. He's not doing anything suspicious, but he comes across a angry Jinx kicking a machine or a weapon of some sort that's not working the way she wants it to. And he's just kind of spying, and she's making comments and just kind of cussing out loud. But she also makes the comment that something fuzzy's watching her without seeing it. Like, she's not looking at him. Her back is turned and she's preoccupied with this thing. But she mentions it and he's like, wait, what? Because even he, who is watching her, is like, wait, what did she just say? And then she grabs him and pulls him over. And she was like, oh, what's this? Right? And his glamour disappears immediately afterwards. So that's actually, you know, it's played with comedic value here, but that's a big point, right?
Yeah.
How is she able to see through his glamour?
And I mean, how is she able to like see out the back of her?
Exactly.
Because she doesn't look at all.
Yeah.
But like we, especially if you follow guys like Necrit, where it's and we talk a lot about it in our Sentinels of Light episodes, where the art in a lot of these comics, they use the eyes heavily as far as showing things. So with Arcane, everyone noticed that Jinx's eyes were different than the Jinx that we know. So what if that is like the effect that she has that lets her see past the glamour of a Yordle? Or is it just insanity? Who knows?
Who knows? Or a combination of both. You know, just a dash of what is it? The Powerpuff Girls, a little bit of Chemical X.
Yeah, and then once we get into like the dialogue between Ziggs and Jinx, like for me, because you mentioned like a lot of like old comics, like the one that like really sticks out to me is like this is kind of more like Deadpool-esque, where
that's actually yep.
Like Jinx is like she's in her own world. No one knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And then like some of the dialogue is strictly just for us. Like it's just for the reader. So it's breaking the fourth wall at the same time. So it's if you like the Deadpool bit, like this comic is going to be a good bit of fun.
Yeah, that's actually a great comparison. I think a perfect comparison. And to that point, when she grabs him, he's like, "Oh shit, she saw through my glamour. She's obviously out of her mind." And then she's like, "You must be a figment of my imagination." It's like, "Oh, there's the crazy Jinx we know and love." And she says, "Not only that, but you're also probably my conscience, like a manifestation of my conscience." But the problem is that she has an awareness of her conscience already as they exist, as like your good and your bad on each shoulder type thing. So she refers to him as like the bigger conscience. That's how crazy she is.
And then she has a council with the smaller consciences, which is the good angel, and the demon on the shoulders, except they're little Ziggs.
Exactly.
Immediately, just all within like just panels of each other. We've transitioned from like, hey, there's a furry thing behind me to you're my conscience. What do you say?
Yeah. And Ziggs is like, "Okay, well, if I'm your conscience, how about you don't do whatever you're planning on doing? Because there's a lot of explosions here. This is reckless." And she's like, "Well, that's no fun." And he's like, "Okay, well, I'm leaving. I don't know you." And then, like Mitch mentioned, she refers to her other conscience to decide to attack him, pulls out her rocket, goes boom boom, and his eyes get wide because he's a pyromaniac. So he sees that, and instead of being fearful for his life, he's like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah. The exact wording here is, "Ooh, pretty."
And he responds by throwing his own bomb at it.
Yeah, so and like that's like we don't get a good sense of it in the first panels when he's talking to Heimerdinger, but it is like Ziggs is in the story like dancing this fine line between just insanity and like chaotic good.
Yeah.
And this is how we finally get to see him kind of dip his toes a little bit deeper into the insane side, which is this chick just shot a rocket at me and all I can think is, ooh, pretty rocket.
If we wanted to dig deeper, right, the conscience for Ziggs here is that you have Heimer on one shoulder, right, who's been his grounding, his mentor, who's kind of pulled him away from his natural love for this chaos. And then Jinx is the manifestation of it in front of him out of nowhere, right? So it's like there's layers here, right? Even though it's a fun comic, there's layers here. So we get the kaboom. And then they both hit the wall, whatever. And she makes the comment, "Was that good for you?" Like, and he's like, "Yeah, I mean, that was fun." Because up to this point, he keeps talking about when's the last time he blew something up, right? It's like he was a past smoker. And he's like, "I haven't smoked in so long.
Please.
I just need a drag, man. I just need a drag.
Please go outside if you're gonna use bombs. I can't be near them."
So after that happens, we get this kind of Ziggs immediately comes back to Earth. He's like, "Okay, that was cool. That kind of brought back memories, but we can't keep doing this, right? Kind of thing. I'm gonna go about my business now." And she asked him, she's like, "Okay, you know explosives. I'm trying to get this thing to work, and it won't. Can you help me?" And he's like, "No, I'm gonna leave. You shouldn't do this." And that thing is the Bombapult. And it's funny because, listen, when I read the name, if you didn't have any imagery, I knew exactly what it was. In my mind, I was like, okay, it's something that shoots bombs, but they have like little parachutes. Like it's like a trebuchet type or catapult that launches bombs, but those bombs have little mini like cute parachutes. And then they blow up when they hit the target.
I mean, that definitely goes to like the Looney Tune. Like this is an Acme machine through and through.
Yeah.
Like the only semblance of realism to it is that it's shaped like a mortar, but it like functions like a catapult, so that even its look just doesn't go with what it does. It's it really plays into the silliness of the comic, and then we get more of that with Ziggs fighting with his conscience before being like, yeah, I'm not going to be a part of this, because then it's the little Heimerdingers on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Uh, and I love their argument, because it makes me think of Futurama with like the professor just trying to say very smart things, and then Fry going, banana, banana.
So Jinx is like, whatever, I don't need you. I'll fix this myself is the last thing I do, right? And her version of fixing something is just kicking it again. But this time, Ziggs like looks at it and he's like, this is bad. The nose is gonna go off. So he grabs it after she kicks it and then throws it away, and it blows up, and he saves her. And she appreciates that, in her weird way, because this was a big bomb. Like, it wasn't any. It's like half firecracker / confetti, half napalm.
Yeah, child's toy.
A child's toy Fisher Price presents.
You're never too young for a Vietnam flashback. But so not only does Ziggs save Jinx, and we get to see like the explosion like happening above him and launching him into Jinx to be like, oh wow, that was bad. The very next panel is just like, here it was a nuclear bomb. Like this gigantic explosion, and it's under this explosion that Ziggs realizes, you know what? Maybe I do want to have some fun with bombs tonight. Like, because that is the sane approach to this, is that this saying to yourself, this is a bad idea, trying to walk away. The bad idea comes to fruition. You save the idiot from the bad idea. And then you look at them and say, well, that was kind of fun, so let's do it again.
Yeah, but just one night, only one.
One night.
We immediately cut into a montage, because you're gonna need a montage.
Yeah, montage.
And we get some sights here of them in a museum, throwing up tags on pictures. We have them in a sweet cake factory, essentially blowing it up, but after they get all the sweets and kind of gorge themselves. We have them at a theater ruining a show. You think talking in a movie's bad?
How about throwing bombs in a movie? If someone from the TSA is listening to this episode, we're never getting on a plane again. We're getting tracked just because it's like, what? Bombs in a theater?
Are they laughing?
This is America. We've done too much here.
I know, right?
Now, all the panels here, though, this is the stuff that like I am like looking forward to trying to find to see if we get like little Easter eggs of in Arcane.
Yes.
Because it's not just that like they're going like tagging art in a museum and all this stuff. Like these are landmarks of Piltover. With like the opera house being shown in a cinematic from a while ago for one of the League of Legends ranked seasons, where this is the opera house that Camille and Jin fight it off in one of their cinematics. And then even where they go to get cake, it's a named bakery. It's Aleco's or Alico's Sweet Cakes.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, what if we see Aleco's in Arcane? Huh? Like what if this turns out to be like one of like Jinx's like old stomping ground things, and like even after she's crazy, she's still going there. So those are the things that I like to think of as far as like taking this comic and looking forward to Arcane.
Yeah, and there's one thing that happens during this silly montage, which is some very serious commentary from Jinx, because outside of this, we've mainly got her making quips or being just, her standard insane self. And here she's talking about how the reason she's doing these things is because they don't care about her. They don't like the way she dresses, so they won't let her into their shops. They think that she's, lesser than. Like, a lot of these comments can be read into about her view of them, of her. Right. So she's like, why wouldn't I mess up their town? They don't want me here anyways, kind of thing. Right. It's almost like it is like a brat having a temper tantrum, but a temper tantrum about some real serious things that we know about the division between Piltover and Zon. If you've listened to any of our episodes, and if you haven't, go listen to them, because there's a lot of content there to tell you about the division between the two places and what that does to the people when they interact. So it's well done, right? Like, it stays within theme of being comic and funny, but it does give us a little bit here about her mental state. Like, it's the most sane we're gonna get from her during this moment.
Yeah, the key phrase, the most sane, because there's no more uphill on this roller coaster ride. It only goes deeper.
It only goes deeper. So to that note, they finish off with the last target, or sorry, second to last target. They finish off with the Monument of Progress, which is a crown jewel. And we have it off in the distance on fire, and they're kind of sitting on a rooftop, just admiring their work, like two crazed artists.
Yeah.
And she mentions to him, "What's up?"
Yeah, I will say that, like, the Monument of Progress, it is different than what we get to see in like Runeterra, because we do get to see the Monument of Progress in Runeterra, and that's on cards like Progress Day and I'm blanking on the other name of the card, so forgive me. But like, since it is that's a very important thing as far as like for Progress Day, which is a holiday in Piltover. So what if in Arcane we get to see like the old monument, like the monument before Heimerdinger really becomes like a shining beacon within the city of Piltover? Are we going to see like is it going to look the same as it does in this comic? Well, what we can gather from this comic, since the only picture we get is it burning and Ziggs saying, "Hey, look at the plumes." It's beautiful. So it's another interesting thing to see if Arcane's gonna pay homage to some of this stuff.
Exactly. We might, because we haven't seen Heimer in any of the trailers or anything. So it could be, I mean, since we're going to get so many episodes, and we'll talk more about those in the Arcane episodes, but we'll see what happens. We might get some cameos of people they didn't reveal, because they revealed a lot in the trailers. So there has to be a lot under the covers as well. But yeah, we have them both admiring it, just kind of hanging out, because he said one night, the night's still going on, right? Night's going long. And then she mentions, "Oh, that's not the grand finale. The grand finale is right ahead of us." And he looks up and he sees the Warden precinct. And that moment sobers him.
Because what is more innocent than bombing a police station?
Listen, we've all played Grand Theft Auto. That's instant stars.
Hey, we getting 5 stars in one go, baby. It's called efficiency.
So yeah, it's a precinct, and that sobers Ziggs up to be like, "All right, listen, we're not doing this, right?" We've had our fun. This is a little much, because Ziggs has one rule that he mentioned earlier, which is not to kill anyone and not to get killed. It's pretty simple. It's so simple you think Akshan would have came up with it.
Yeah, like that really is like some Akshan level like thought process. And I do love though that like the more nervous that he gets, the more like Heimerdinger he talks, because then it's like you know, she's pointing at the Warden station, and like his response to it is, "Oh, the Warden station. Oh, that would be a fun surprise for them. We're going to let everyone evacuate the premises, right?" Like, you know, it's like, no, I didn't say like don't kill people or anything. It's just like, no, let's formulate our plan.
Exactly, right? And so he's like, "Okay, cool. I'll go along with it." Wink, nod, wink. And as she's like, "All right, cool," lets her guard down, he takes away the what is it called? The detonation box.
Yeah.
And runs away, and he starts yelling, "Hey, evacuate the building. She's gonna blow this thing up." Because at this point, the town's pretty much cleared out because they've done so much destruction. So the Wardens, who are on alert because of all this stuff, it makes sense that him yelling would get their attention. She tackles him, and also decides, well, who needs the box? I have my Kerchow right here. Shoots that. That doesn't do anything. So after she tackles him, the box falls out of his reach. Remember, he's a Yordle. He's tiny. His legs don't move as fast.
He's deadly at short distances.
Exactly.
How many lot art references can we get?
And the box rolls away from him. She walks up to it, and he's like, "Wait, I'm your conscience, remember? Listen to me." And she's like, all right, and then steps on the detonation anyways.
With
and it
the
blows,
words, yeah, with the words, get jinxed.
Get jinxed, the title card. We got a title card.
Yeah.
So she steps on the detonator, blows out, huge explosion. People are running out of the building. And this frame is actually really cool because it's, once again, you get these small moments. It's only 12 pages, right? You get the small moments of sanity, right? Where we get a shot of the explosion in the background, the wardens on the ground trying to like get out of the building. And you have Jinx looking at it, and her face isn't one of like crazed indulgence. It's like she's like, oh shit, right? It's definitely an oh shit moment for her, especially being so close, because she didn't plan on blowing it up from this close as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like that whole adage of like, you know, looking your victim in the eye, as far as like, the moral dilemma.
Yes.
And it's like that moral dilemma is deeper if you have to look the victim in the eye. And all of a sudden it's like Jinx is looking at this explosion like, oh God, is this what I've been doing to people?
Exactly.
So it's so then we get the hey, this is this what feeling bad feels like? And while Jinx is having this one moment of remorse, the wardens do a head count, and it seems that everyone's accounted for. They got out in time, and now Jinx is like, yay, I don't have to learn anything, and we're straight back into insanity. And that is not me embellishing at all. That's almost verbatim what she says.
Yeah. So the wardens are like, wait, who the hell are you guys? And why are y'all covered in fire? And why is the detonator near you? We're going to arrest you. And then they notice that Ziggs' glamour kind of peters out again, and they see him for Yordle. So it's like, okay, you guys, there's been an explosion. You guys are the only ones here. You're covered in soot and crap. And there's a Yordle with you. We're going to arrest you. You're going to prison, no trial, straight to jail.
Yeah. And this is where, like, because this comic is really like one of the few things that really points out like the well, for lack of a better term, the racism towards Yordles. Because they, it's like, hey, what is that? It's some creature. And then like one of the only, like someone asks, oh, is that a Yordle? And then like the very next thing is like, it's a Noxian weapon. I saw them use it in Ionia. Kill it dead. In a very funny and quirky comic that kind of hits a little too close to being a little real. I'm just like, the ignorance.
That's how you know with comics and with like manga, we get to see when you see a skilled creator, because in one panel you get what Hetch just mentioned, and then you also have a child who shows up and says, no, it's just a little cute furry thing, like fuzzy thing. It's those two perspectives, right, on the situation that lets you know where things stand in one panel.
Yep.
Right. So you have the old guy losing his mind. The young kid's like, no, it's just a little cute fuzzy thing. And then another old guy's like, kill it before it kills us. Which is another perspective, right? So great, 2 panels, amazing. And then we get a quick sighting of Heimerdinger in his glamour in the crowd. And Ziggs sees him and he's like, hey, Heimer, vouch for me, kind of thing. He kind of, they lock eyes and they ask, do you know this thing? And he says, no, I've never seen that creature in my life, right? And that's an important moment because remember, up until this point, this is pre-Heimer, right? This is early Heimer days. Ziggs is his Padawan. Like he's mentoring him. They're like the only two, because another point that you'll hear from our other episodes, if you haven't listened to them, with Yordles in them, is that Yordles tend to be isolated. They tend to be scattered around Runeterra. So, when it's just you two in the town, you guys know each other, you may butt heads. It's just you two, though. You guys are the same, right? Your people kind of thing. So it hurts. You can see it hurts, and we get a real sobering. So like we have a sobering panel for Jinx, we get a sobering one here for Ziggs as well. And she offers him like, hey, Jinx being Jinx, you made me feel things. So I owe you one. Why don't you come live with me for a bit and we'll have fun in Zon? Piltover sucks. It's not for people like us.
Yeah. And this is really fun because it's a really heavy exit into what was Ziggs' life. So that like to have like how heavy of an exit it is to then just Jinx being like, well, I felt feelings. You should party in Zon with me. And then
They're
it's
basically dating.
Yeah. And then it like so then they just like transition from this very sobering and heavy subject matter into, hey, want to blow crap up for a living? And then like into this weird pseudo dating relationship of like they both know that it's like if they're dating, they both know neither one of them's dating each other. They're dating the bombs. And so then like these are the last page is like where the only looks that we get at Zon. And it's also like the first time at least in our show where we get to see Zon in a like better light. Like Zon has always just been like the slums. It is the crappiest place to live. If you're in Zon, all you want is out. And this is the first time in our show that we really get to look at Zon through the eyes of people who actually like being there. And for what it's worth, it's two psychopaths who only want to blow crap up, but they do want to be in Zon. And we get these lovely panels of all these the Kim punks with these Kim trails going everywhere, and they're with Ziggs talking about all the stuff he can blow up there, and then the only thing that we get to hear from the people of Zon, they're coming, run.
So they just went from terrorizing one town to another. And then we see a shot of them riding off on a rocket together. And Ziggs is happy. He's in his element, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that brings us to the end of Paint This Town. It's fun. It's one of those things like we've had a couple of, as we went through our Sentinel of Light stuff and kind of started wrapping that up. A lot of that's very dark, very self-serious, as it should be for the thematic point of those related stories. But when you're dealing with Jinx and you're dealing with Ziggs and you're getting to this Piltover space, Piltover, although Zon has its stories and Piltover has its stories, you have these more goofy characters in this space, right? There's more room to play around with the social dynamics and the people that come out of that combination. So yeah, it's cool to have a comic like this right after coming out of like this Sentinel Light stuff where it's all dark and dour.
Yeah, and especially since it is like it's even ending in a place like outside of the Shadow Isles that's supposed to be dark and dour, and showing that it's like, okay, yeah, no, there's still a lot of quirkiness and there's a lot of humor within this universe, despite the fact of the harrowing, and the harrowing is coming. And then I know for me, if you're listening to this and you find it interesting, give it a read, because one of the things I'll be doing is like going through these panels and just trying to pinpoint any of like the art styles and as far as like the outfits and stuff of these social norms, and saying what I can find in Arcane, because this is, up to this point, it's one of the earliest looks into Piltover and Zon that we get, and Arcane's supposed to be before all that. Yep. So I'm gonna be really interested to see like if there's things that they decided to like change up for the show, if it's gonna be a thing of like the timeline is why it's different, or if they're trying to retcon stuff. I'm just gonna be staring at all of these little things, these little details, and trying to find what I can and annoy Ryan as I blow up his phone with all my dumb theories.
It's gonna be fun. And as always, thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with the next episode. Don't miss these ones.
Yeah. Take care, everybody.